I've been thinking about you because we're heading toward football season, and nobody loves a road trip to a college football game more than Bill Burr.
Oh yeah.
In 2020, that's not happening. Have you reconciled emotionally?
Is it not happening? I haven't been watching.
Actually, you're right. Maybe it will happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything on the news, and then just when people who like don't have medical degrees started telling me that the Centers for Disease Control didn't know what they were talking about, and yet somehow they did without any sort of medical background or not even a petri dish. They started telling me what was what, and everybody got in their egos because they couldn't handle the fear and the unknown. So they're like, this is bullshit. This is just to take down Donald Trump. This is the fuck over Biden. This is the blah, blah, blah. This is a China thing. And I was just like, all right, shutting off the TV.
Smart.
Yep. So I shut it off, and I've been having a great time. I've been delving into the pre-Super Bowl history of the NFL, having a great time, reading a book on Bobby Lane and Lou the Toe Groza, just loving it.
Pre-Super Bowl, so like pre-1960s?
Pre-1966 season.
Wow. My son was writing this whole giant book report for school about the history of football. Broad topic. Was his idea. He's 12. He's like, I'm doing the whole history of football. I'm like, cool. But we did a whole chapter about the AFL. And he was just blown away that there were two leagues. I was trying to explain it to him. We're trying to explain it to a 12-year-old. Like, well, then these other guys thought they should have a league. So then there were just two leagues, and they bid on all the players. So then that decided to merge.
That was the third AFL. A lot of people don't know that. There was two other AFLs. There was the All-American Football Conference. See, the thing is, what I don't get is why the Patriots and the Steelers with 6 titles in a 100-year-old league are at the level of the Yankees, the Celtics, and the Canadians. It doesn't make any sense. The Yankees, Canadians, whatever of the NFL is the Green Bay Packers. They won something like 9 or 11. So I always forget. They won like a ton of titles.
Yeah.
And 4 Super Bowls. So they have at least 13 since being in the league in 1920. They should be the benchmark. They won NFL titles. They won Super Bowls, right? But nope. It's like, go fuck yourself. I mean, they won in 61, 62, and then they three-peated, 65, 66, 67. They won 5 titles in the 60s, but because 3 of them were just considered NFL titles, it didn't count. I mean, they were just playing guys like Dick Butkus, Gale Sayers, and Jim Brown, Sam Huff. Yeah, those guys couldn't play. Those weren't real titles, Bill. And any other when the All-American Football Conference joined the NFL, they
1970.
No, that was the All-American. That was 1950.
Oh, you're going back further. Yeah.
1950 when they came in, they still counted NFL titles before that. It just doesn't make. I think it was all like a marketing thing, and I think because there was finally a league that showed that they were just as good, which isn't true, because the Browns won all 4 years of the All-American Football Conference with Paul Brown and Otto Graham, right? And then 1950, they kept calling it a Mickey Mouse League. In 1950, they joined the NFL and they won the fucking title, and they went to the title every year like LeBron. For 6 straight years, won 3, lost 3. The way you wrote that book on basketball, you would love this shit, because they were the ones that showed everybody in the NFL how important the kicking game was. Because they had this guy, Lou Groza, who was accurate beyond 40 yards and could actually hit a 50-yarder, and the goalpost was right on the goal line. So if you got to the 42-yard line, you were in this guy's wheelhouse. So they're like, how the fuck are these guys in it every year? And they started crunching numbers, and they found out that they won 15% of their games because of the kicking game. So he, in a way, is the first Adam Vinatieri. And by the way, when they won in 1950, he kicked the winning field goal. When Otto Graham, with 1:48 left, and they try to act like before Johnny Unitas, it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It looked like the modern-day NFL. He was just throwing, going right down the fucking field.
The difference was the goalpost right on the goal line, which – it's kind of amazing they went decades before they realized that maybe the game would be a little more fun if they could run pass routes over the middle inside the 10-yard line. It's just kind of nuts that they did it that way.
I would say the CFL took it too far. or they have an entire parking lot for an end zone.
That's true. It's been really fun. It's my son just really got into football this year, and we've been watching like the America's game, and some of the old, like we were watching this 68 Jets, the team that became the 69 Jets that won the Super Bowl, but that whole year they had this crazy win against the Raiders to win the AFL. It's like, this is stuff like we knew as kids because we had nothing else to do, and you just read about the history of everything.
Yeah.
But it's been fun to redo it. And you're right, like teams didn't throw as much as they do now, but they were capable of throwing down the field. It's not like it was
they threw
Marino.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Way more than they thought. And then it's fun to look at the Steelers, who just couldn't win anything. And you saw that they had like, in the late 50s, they had a rookie named Johnny Unitas, who they got rid of because they signed Bobby Lane after he broke his fucking leg. And he made him a winner, but not to the level they also had. They had Len Dawson. They drafted Len Dawson, got rid of him.
Right.
They just, thank God they got Chuck Nolan there. They would have traded Terry Bradshaw away too.
I like that this was one of your quarantine deep dives, was pre-1960 football.
No, I was already into it. I was already into it, but I just had the time to do it. I bought some football cards. I'll buy like complete sets of years, and I buy the ones that are just in good condition because you can get them for a couple $100 as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars. It's like, I want to look at these things. I want to read them, hold on to them. That's like if someone buys a classic car and they never drive it. It's like, well, what the fuck did you get it for?
Right. Well, especially with those old cards, half of it is the people are just trying to get rid of them to get them out of like their garage or their attic or something. Yeah. Like, here, would you like 750 football cards? Here they are.
There's just something that I learned that the Patriots and the Bills have in common. We both have employed two murderers, ex-player murderers. And here's the weird thing. Both of ours went to jail and both of theirs got acquitted.
Who was the second Bills murderer?
I forget his name. I have the football card in my house. He did the exact thing with the OJ thing where he got off on the trial.
Yeah.
But he lost the civil suit. And the civil suit was his own kid sued him. His wife drowned in a pool, and they found that the evidence said that she had suffered a blow to the head.
Right.
And they felt she was placed in the pool, but they couldn't prove it. But for some reason, the civil case, where they can then take everything that you own, the burden of proof isn't as much. So that's a weird thing. And to me, you're either innocent or you're guilty. I don't know. It's weird.
Who was the second Patriot murderer?
He came up for like a cup of coffee. He played in 88 and 89, probably on the taxi squad and on the special teams. And he somehow got involved with a woman who had a guy who had a life insurance policy. And
Jesus. Yeah, I don't remember this.
One of those first 48 type of things. Yeah.
There were some dark times with the Patriots from 87 and 94. Crazy
shit. I had tickets in 89. The Rod Rust years.
Oh, the 1 in 15 year. Yeah.
What, were they 1 in 15 that? Yeah, I knew it was bad.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I finally tried to get my money back. I was like, fuck this. I did the sacrilegious thing. I bet against the Patriots, and they showed up and they beat the Jim Kelly Patriots and Bills in 89, the one that went to the next 4 Super Bowls. Which, by the way, here's another thing, too, is when you talk about losing the big game, like they are the benchmark with football. The losing 4 Super Bowls in a row. And they took the monkey off the bat of John Elway, losing 3 out of 4 with the Broncos. He also did it by winning back-to-back, of course. And then before that, it was the Vikings, who lost like 4 Super Bowls over like 8 years. But here's something that I learned with NFL titles. The New York Football Giants, they lost in 58, 59, 61, 62, and 63. They lost 5 in 6 years.
Oh my God.
And then
they won one though, right?
And Y.A. Tittle was the quarterback in 61, 62, 63. And I lived in New York long enough to know that the New York Post and Daily News, if they were around back then, probably had fun with the headline, probably said Y.A. no title Tittle or something silly like that. But it's fascinating.
It's funny. I used to know all this stuff, but I always feel like your brain is like a nightclub. It has a capacity. And then when new stuff enters it, it just, customers have to get thrown out. So all of my basically my pre-1980 sports knowledge. I feel like it's just been thrown out.
I think when you become a dad, you lose a lot. But that Dave DeBuscher wrote a book on memory. I was watching that Rappaport documentary again, that one, when the garden was Eden.
Right.
And he was in there, and he'd like developed his own language that he used to speak with Bill Bradley and Phil Jackson be looking over. They were speaking their own pig Latin. And he had this book. I was going to buy it because my memory, I feel like, your brain's a muscle. Like, I got to get it. He wrote a book. He had an incredible memory. So I also think that that like a lot of people treat their brains the way they treat their midsection. You know what I mean? Where you're not doing this. You should be doing sit-ups every day, keeping your core, doing some squats, and get your old ass up and out of a chair. And people just don't do it. And you do the same thing with your brain. So I think it's actually a good thing to try and, like, I can name all the titles from 1948 in football right through today, just through connecting, knowing all the Super Bowls, watching the NFL film and being a kid, and then watching from Super Bowl 11 on. Although I always get a little cloudy after the Patriots won their third one because I got real busy in my career. So there's that bookend Steeler thing where it goes like Steelers,
right.
Colts, Giants, Steelers, and Saints, Packers, something like that. I always get confused in there.
For football, I can go back to probably 70, but basketball, I can still go all the way back. And it's sad because
that book you wrote on basketball.
Yeah, it's like ingrained in my brain, and it's
weird. You know who you should have on your podcast?
Who
you would? Don Gavin, one of the legends in Boston comedy, started the whole friggin' scene at the Ding Ho. He went to all of those Celtic games back in the day. He used to go and watch the Celtics win a championship when it was the half-full Garden, and he could move down. Like he was there. He was there at the beginning of it, and I had a podcast with him, and I stumbled onto that in the end, and I was like, oh, my God. Dude, if you ever just want to, like...
Just go dork it out, the old school hoops?
Old school hoops with a guy who was there during the like, remember when Bill Russell was a rookie? I mean, they were just kids. He was there at the game when Cousy retired, and that guy yelled, "We love you, Coos!"
Right.
He goes, I was at that game. I knew all the ushers, and they used to just come down.
You know what's crazy? So my dad got season tickets in 1974. He got one ticket for the 73-74 season. He's had them ever since. He is now seventh. He's seventh in the pecking order of all-time season ticket holders. There's only 6 people that are older than him who have Celtic season tickets who are still alive and actually go to the games.
I mean,
my dad's not that old. He's 72, but he's 7th in the pecking order now.
I know. You know what I was amazed? I read this book on Cousy and Bill Russell. It's kind of a more on Cousy because Bill Russell had no quotes in the book.
Yeah.
So it's more about Bob Cousy, and it was about basically the inception of the league and then the racism and what Cousy wished these guys had done.
Right.
I was surprised with how many people from those Celtics, where they won 9 in a row in 11 and 13 years or whatever. I was surprised how many of them were still alive and how long they all lived. It's incredible. Like it was like,
well, you even have this now with the NBA where you have most of the greatest guys basically going back to Russell and Elgin Baylor are all still alive. They like Wilt's dead, but I think Bob Pettit's still alive, and Oscar and Jerry West, obviously, and all the way through. Casey Jones is dead, but Sam Jones is alive, and so on and so on. It's a surprisingly high non-mortality rate compared to the NFL.
Or just compared to a regular guy that is of that height. Because you get this, everybody gets the same size heart. So when people are that tall, just even when you're in shape, how much harder your heart has to work to pump blood to your extremities. Now here I am acting like I have a medical degree, but it's just stuff I read on. That's why you always see little old men and little old ladies, driving down the street. It's because that heart, just goes like this, and it goes all the way to the end of their toes. With those guys, this guy's got to be working like that, I would think. So I remember one time being in Houston, and I was at a cheesecake factory when I was on the road, and Moses Malone was in there. I got to see him before he passed away, and I've always said I would put the 83 76ers up against the 96 Bulls. I think that would be a great matchup because Dr. J could neutralize enough of what Jordan would do. Wouldn't say they would win, but then you got Moses Malone underneath against Bill Cartwright.
And Andrew Toney was unbelievable that year. He was like 25 a game in the finals those 2 years when they made it.
Without a 3-point line, wearing the low top Converse, right?
Yeah. Well, they had a 3-point line. It was just nobody used it. It was like a third rail on a subway or something. With somebody, don't ask me why, but I was watching some of the 1980s Celtics Sixers series because Maravich is in it. It's really weird. Like they have like 6 Hall of Famers on the team, but somebody takes a 3 and the announcers react like it was like a midcourt shot. Bird pulls up.
Well, he's going to get benched.
It was like he cut it from 5 to 2, and they're acting like it was like a buzzer beater. All he did was like pull up and take a 3. Like Klay Thompson will do it 11 times in a Warriors game. But back in 1980, it was like, oh my God, did you see what Bird did?
Yeah,
25-footer, and he made it. But
I know it's kind of become, they hit like globetrotter shots. Like 6'11" guys will pull up and take a 3 and miss it. And like some of the shit that you see in a game would just be like you get traded. Forget about benched.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody underneath on a fast break and a 7-footer will pull up and take a 3-pointer. It's just like, but I mean, I don't know. What do they call it? A game of attrition now? It's just, it's.
We're taping this at the end of May.
Okay.
You're a huge hockey fan.
Mm-hmm.
Are you surprised that hockey players, legendarily the toughest, people who care about their own health the least out of basically any professional athlete ever, aren't already playing right now? I'm amazed they're not just breaking into rinks so they can skate around and try to play. I can't believe they haven't come back yet. I'm actually proud of them that they've read the newspapers.
Yeah, I'm actually reading. I just been reading I always read like 3 books at a time. I just listen to. So I'm reading another one. It's called The Code. It's just the whole NHL code. All these years of watching and seeing fights and why did that happen? Just breaking the whole thing down. And they have all these enforcers and stuff. It's just fascinating. The soap operas that build up to some of these fights. And then, unfortunately, if somebody really gets hurt, how 24-hour sports broadcasting, and plus the horrible hockey coverage in this country, they just take the incident and just act like this guy just skated up and did that. And that was it. And it's just like, no, man. This goes back years, or this goes back weeks or months or 5-6 games, playoff series last year. It's really a fascinating thing on just the whole thing about it, because I never understood that the players have to police the game, where they just sort of like, it's like one of those, you watch those things, the toughest jails in the world, and then there's jails, they're so fucked up, like some of the prisoners have guns. And for some reason, they don't break out, but the guards are sort of working for them, and it's just totally gotten nuts. There's sort of an element of that, I always thought. But then when I read the book, it's such a crazy, controlled, violent game that you need this guy, just the presence of that guy going out there. They're saying that guys will skate out there. And this one guy would just get out there and just say right before a favor, better clean this up, somebody's going to get hurt. And everybody's just like, oh shit, that guy's gonna beat the fuck out of me and then the game settles down. And then other times you have to do something, and rules about not trying to drop the gloves with the guy at the end of his shift is considered a cowardly move. And you can't, that shit will come back in
like you later. Right.
Like when you whack Billy Bats.
Yeah.
Years later you think you're getting made. Oh no, boom. Like it's really, really, really fascinating.
It's funny, like when
there was more fights in the 80s than there was in the 70s. They made it look like the Flyers ruined the league.
True. Well, I like when the guys are like Larry Robinson was like this, and Chara has been like this, for a long time. The guys who don't fight really ever, but the reputation is don't fuck with them, and they can still be the policeman without having to really fight that much.
Chara has fought. It's just like you don't want to fight that guy.
No, he'll do it like every so often, but he doesn't need to. You pass this point where it's like you actually don't even really need to fight anymore because everyone's properly scared and threatened.
Well, also you don't want to have a Norris Trophy winner sitting in the box for 2 minutes, and also get an instigator while they have some fucking guy, just agitator, is sitting there, and then all their goal scorers out there. The amount of ice that Zdeno Chara eats up is ridiculous. I mean, you can't put a price on it. I still can't believe Ottawa traded him.
Well, the other thing, these guys are obviously amazing athletes, right? Like there's this clip of Wayne Gretzky. He's in the Superstars where you ever see that where he's racing against Sugar Ray Leonard and like two other great athletes, and he just beats them by 10 yards and a 40-yard dash. Like he just destroys them. But I always felt like Bobby Orr. Yeah, it's online. Bobby Orr only has, he probably had less than 15 fights total. And I don't know, 5 or 6 of them are on YouTube. Like he was an amazing fighter, which makes sense because he was an amazing athlete. So if he actually fought, he's going to be more coordinated and do some stuff. So I always like that part too. Like the better the player, I was like when that would translate into their fisticuffs.
Yeah, but there's the courage thing too. The courage thing can have your talent drop off. That takes a lot of like something. I don't know. That takes us to do that, and then have a fight in front of 20,000 fucking people on skates, and try and stay
on skates.
Up. And then when he came in the league, it's like, guys would come at you, and you tried to see if you were tough or not, and you had to prove yourself. It was like going to prison. But something I'm trying to look up is I want to see like the hockey fight from the 40s or 50s, because back then if you grabbed another guy's jersey for balance, they immediately came in and broke it up. So they would stand there like boxers. Let me get you, see? And I'm just like, how the hell did that work? And they would basically trade until they were tired. The refs wouldn't come in, and they would just both skate to the penalty box, and that would be it.
Right. Well, I always like the 70s fights. If I'm doing a YouTube binge, I like the 70s and early 80s more than the next phase, because the next phase, guys started to like put actual practice into the fighting. You had guys with real.
Changed it. Ty Domi's the guy that I heard gets credit. He was the guy because he was smaller.
Yeah.
He was the guy that did the thing, because it used to be when I first watched him, guys stood right in front of each other. I grab your right shoulder, you grab my right shoulder. We did bang, 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 just like that, right? And he was the first guy that did this move, because he needed to, I think, create distance. So he was the guy that grabbed here.
Well, I wonder who created the spin move.
I did a benefit one time, and he would tell me about it. You can't believe how big that guy's hands are. He grabbed me here. I was like, oh, fuck. And he was the guy that did this, and then would come back. I mean, actually, he was right-handed, I think. He was the guy that developed that. So then it became like, then the big guys started doing it, which is why Ty Domi's one of the greatest and toughest ever, because then they took what was working for him. Right. Then they turned like that. Then there was a guy, and he's great. Ty Domi fights Rob Ray on the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah. And guys like Rob Ray, another great fighter. He was the reason why now you have to have your jersey tied down, because he used to have, he was almost like in basketball, tearaway sweatpants. You'd go to fight the guy, and you just looking at his jersey, everything would come off, including his pads, and then you had nothing to grab onto. You grab his chest hair, and then he just grabbed your jersey, and you were fucked. I mean, it was like you were trying to hold on to like a banana peel or something. And I remember there's this great, hilarious clip of Ty Domi fighting him, and the guy's jersey comes off like a fucking stripper, and he's got nothing. And then, Rob Ray beats him. And so Ty Domi's in the box yelling at Rob Ray, like making these gestures about his jersey falling off. And then Rob Ray just goes like, 0-3, like I beat you 3 times, which must have like driven him up the wall. The guys had like, hockey players in general, just fucking hilarious. The ones that I've been fortunate enough to meet, they're really, really funny. And it's the only sport where nobody's out of shape. There's not one fat hockey player. Right. Soccer's the other one like that. Got a little, like Phil Kessel always looked like he was playing pickup hockey, like a pickup hockey, like rink rat kind of guy. It's why I always loved him, because he looked like the guys that when I used to play. Well,
when you talk about the code, I remember the Islanders beat the Bruins. It was like 1980. And O'Reilly and Gillies fought, I think, either every game but one. And really, like, they really seemed like they truly hated each other. And then we lost to them. This is when I really cared about hockey. And I was so upset we lost. But in the handshake line, I was like, O'Reilly's going to punch Gillies in the handshake line. At least we're going to have this.
Can't do that.
And then they had like this really emotional like handshake. There was there was a shoulder pat, and I my mind was blown. You know,
yeah, total like, respect for each other. Yeah,
it was like you guys wanted to kill each other for 2 weeks. What just happened? But that was the way it was back then.
Dude, Clark Gillies underrated as far as when people bring up tough guys from that era. Dude, there's a fight. I forget who he fights. I believe it's under Clark Gillies breaks so-and-so's face.
Right.
He's punching this guy, and the guy just takes a really bad one. So he ducks down, and as he's bringing his hands down, like Gillies just effortlessly takes that in and throws an uppercut. It was like one of those skyscraper elevators going right up to the penthouse. Boom, hits this guy, and this guy just went down. Like, it was one of those ones where it's not an enjoyable fight to watch. It was just like, ooh.
Well, the Bruins could never beat the Canadians when we were growing up, but then we at least had Stan Jonathan beat the shit out of Pierre Bouchard that time, and there was like blood on the ice, and Fred Cusack was all excited. It was like our Stanley Cup. The fact that Stan Jonathan won the Bouchard fight.
And you know what? It all turned around in '87, and it's been going in our favor ever since.
Oh, I know.
We've essentially owned those fucking guys, except for 1 or 2 seasons. I would say though that like this is going to come off as sour grapes, but I've been a pretty good guy up until this point. I mean, look. The Celtics have done what they've done. The Lakers are the most successful franchise in all 4 sports in my lifetime. They've done what they've done. The Yankees have done what they've done. Patriots, Steelers, Packers, if you count NFL titles, have done what they've done. The Canadians, I kind of got to take, dominating a 6-team league. I don't know. You go back with the Yankees, there was like an 8-team league. That
this is the argument against Russell, though. You can't make this argument and then defend Bill Russell, because everybody says,
I
Russell
defend Bill Russell as an individual. Listen, I defend Bill Russell as an individual, but I don't like. Every league has that team that won a bunch during the Three Stooges era.
Yeah.
And then it's just like the Canadians were winning it when they were playing like pond hockey against the fucking Montreal Maroons, and the Stanley Cup is the size of a shot glass. Yeah, I if somebody were to argue that with me, the reason why I don't argue that in the NBA is because the other dominant team is the Lakers, and they're counting them all the way back to the BAA according to your book. So it's kind of a fair fight to me. I guess you know what it is. I guess if the Toronto Maple Leafs have continued to win, which a lot of people don't know, that they were going cup for cup up until 1967. It was like 15-13.
And then the faucet shut off.
Then it just shut off. And then Canadians won in 68, 69, won 7. 6 or 7? 72, right, 71, 73, 76 through 79, 86 and 93. And that was it.
Well, you're like a little older than me.
Lance Armstrong, when he looked over his shoulder and then just they did that move.
You're a little older than me, not much. But like when I was growing up, the Canadians were the invincible dynasty, because we had these little smaller dynasties. Like the Steelers won 4 when I was growing up, and we had the Packers from the 60s and the Celtics from the 60s. But the Canadians
dominance ended in 1979, but for the Bruins, it continued for almost another decade. And it had already been, they'd been the bane of our existence, like, the entire time, because they were our number 1 rivals and they were the most successful team.
Well, they won every time. But then the Islanders showed up in 80, and then it was just like, then they ended it. And then the Oilers showed up, and then they did their whole thing. It's a really weird era to look back on.
And then the Canadians ran Patrick Roy out of town.
Which never made sense.
He went out. No. If you look at goaltending before Patrick Roy, it's ridiculous. The guys just played stand up, and they would try to kick their leg out. He brought that butterfly thing in, and ever since then, and then the pads got bigger and clutch and grab, and hockey's gone through a lot of shit. It became way harder.
The pads are too big. That's the biggest mistake I feel like they've made in hockey is the goalie pads. I don't know why. I know they have some limitations on it now.
All sports. The protective gear got so good that you could kill somebody.
Right.
Because like, dude, those pads you wear in hockey with like that hard plastic, dude, and you skate as fast as an NHL guy, like taking an elbow like that fucking Stevens move over the blue line, if you have your head down and he came across, it was like getting hit with a fucking wrench. So that's the thing too about like NFL players, where they were talking about like helmets where it protects the skull but not the brain because it's in the fluid. So
true.
I started leading, like if you watch, like, I've been watching a bunch of old sports. You watch the way they
Me too.
In the way they hit in football back in the day. I mean, they
had a Pats Dolphins
like
game. Yeah, they had a Pats Dolphins game from '94. It was Bledsoe Marino. It was week 1. And there's like 15 cheap shots in the game from receivers going over the middle on the sidelines. Like the headhunting, you just kind of forget now.
Well, it's like, not. It wasn't considered a penalty. And before before the Mel Blount rule, did you ever see what Mel Blount did to Golden Richards in that Super Bowl, the '75 season?
Yeah.
He basically just beat the shit out of him.
Right.
He'd come down the field, he would grab him, he would throw him on the ground. It'd be like a sweep to the other side, and he would just be fucking like wrestling, dropping elbows on him.
Well, Coates is in that game. Ben Coates was amazing for the Pats, and then all of a sudden it was over. And he takes like 8 hits in that game. And this is like week 1 of the '94 season. He gets crushed like 8 different times. And it was weird. It's just weird. Maybe we'll think this about UFC 25 years from now, because we watch UFC, like that fight that they had, the main event from a couple weeks ago, and the guys just beat the shit out of each other for 5 rounds. Maybe we'll think 20 years from now, like, oh my God, I can't believe we let that happen. But that's what it's like watching these old football games.
You can also, they have submissions, and then somebody can choke you out or whatever.
And the elbows.
Those leg kicks. My thing about the only thing about that sport, because I love that sport, is when a guy's clearly knocked out, the 4 or 5 hammer fists that he then takes before that, and the refs are lightning quick. Everybody's doing their job. Like, that's the one thing where when especially watching all this NFL stuff, when you see a guy, it's like it's over. He lost the fight. Did he need to take those last 3 or 4? But like,
it's almost like the ref needs a weapon, like when they try to get a lion away from somebody or a bear. Yeah, something where he just needs to come in with a weapon and knock the guy out. My son wanted to come on this pod, but I wouldn't let him because he's still watching your Netflix show. It's in his.
Oh, all right.
My son, the biggest fan of inappropriate animated comedy out of anybody. Like, not inappropriate, but for when you're 12.
Yeah.
And you've made the short list, so congrats on that.
Season 4, F is for Family, that comes out on June 12th, as does The King of Staten Island. As I'm sitting
that's a big week for you.
1930s.
Yeah, that's a big date for you. Yeah, he's excited it's back because he has that. He has Big Mouth. He has Duncanville, and then the old South Parks that are moving to HBO Max. So he's been fine during the quarantine. Don't worry about.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
It's
great.
They're moving to HBO Max. It's just like, well, first of all, I can't imagine what they're going to be able to get away with. That's great for South Park fans, but I was sad Comedy Central's where they're at, man. They did a lot for me throughout my career, and had a lot of friends over there, man. But I mean, I guess everything changes.
Well, I think, aren't the new ones still on Comedy Central? I think just the library went to HBO Max.
Oh, is that what it is? Well, I know that they restructured over there. I thought that they just moved the whole.
Yeah, I think they licensed it out.
Here's the amazing thing about going back to the UFC is the UFC has done in 20, 25 years what all of the other 4 American Big 4 sports leagues have tried to do, which is go global. I feel like they're all jealous of soccer. How the World Cup and all of that. Ooh, can you imagine how much money is in there? Like, they're all jealous of that shit. And they, in 25 years, lapped all 4 of the Big 4 and just put them into the stratosphere where they're, in the same conversation as, like, I mean, what are other global sports? Boxing, maybe you could say? Stuff like
soccer, that. NBA to a lesser degree.
Way less.
And MMA. Yeah. And then whatever major boxing fight there is, which there's less and less as the years go on that people actually care about.
Well, boxing's weird where they were the reverse of the NFL, where they kept squashing out all these other new leagues, where boxing just became more and more and more. And then they compiled that with like every 3 pounds was a new like weight class so they could have a new champion and have yet another title fight. They kind of like sold their souls to that, I feel.
Well, and they had no commissioner or any sort of logic or governance. And it was just the wild, wild west, which I think that's one of the reasons the UFC has, been able to thrive like that, is there's some cohesion to it.
That's the one thing. As a fan, what I love is the fact that it's all under one roof, which I've heard fighters can grumble from time to time about pay. But what I do think is cool is that when it's all under one roof, that the best guy is going to fight the best guy. Like you don't have to wait. Some of those Mayweather fights where you'd be watching him fight a guy that he should have fought 10 years earlier. A few of those guys, maybe they were on PEDs. Who knows? I obviously don't know the inside, but just story. But as like a fight fan, like I feel like boxing, the Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard. What was that? The middleweight division back then?
Yeah, the 80s.
And then the heavyweight division through. I watched it from the end of Ali right through Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Michael Dokes, and those guys. Like somewhere after that, it got so big, and there was the IBF. Actually, Tyson was the first. He unified the title. It was when the Klitschko showed up that it really went south. When you just had like these giant 6'6", 260-pound guys with no personality, and it just got weird. But now I feel like it's the Wilder Fury was really fun. I enjoyed those fights, so maybe it'll have a little bit of a comeback. What else do you care about? When do you think you'll be able to do comedy on a stage again? That's not up to me to decide. And I've been doing it for 28 years, so I'm confident that I can just go do a couple of runs at some small theaters out here. Don't charge anybody any money or whatever, and I'll get it back together. Do
you miss it?
No.
You see, I wonder with a lot of the signature comedians having a break like this, where you're in this routine. I got to go to the club. I got to work, and now you can't do that. Whether it's going to force.
I don't miss it because I've been on the road for 30 years.
Yeah,
my daughter's 3.5 years old, so to be able to hang out with her and oh my God, crushing it with the T-ball, crushing lefty, throws right,
lefty,
that's left. Telling you, crushing it. She hit one the other day, right? I put one, hit one out of the hand, went up on the roof, so I had to go up and go get it, right? So I threw it down to her, and as I was coming down to the ladder, I heard her hit it, and then I heard it hit the top of my car. Like she sent it out onto the Mass Pike.
Wow. Like the 99 All-Star Home Run Derby.
Yeah, I was very...
having a kid, it's like as an athlete, it's like a torn ACL. Like you're just
I'm having another kid in like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's like a torn Achilles. I mean, you could still survive.
I agree with that, but I think parents bitch way too much. They're fucking soft.
I meant just creatively what your bandwidth is, not the bitching about being a parent part. It's just the focus of it screws it up. It just does.
Yeah,
because you have those T-ball moments versus the old days when you're just like your brain is just gravitating toward the three things you care about professionally, and now it's like, oh shit, my daughter's hitting lefty. This is
more
great.
Important. Yeah, it's way more important than this thing. Here's the thing: I would like I'm gonna come back and crush it when I get back on there. I have a killer if I can remember the 90 minutes I got. But I needed a break, dude. I needed a pandemic. I really did, man. I was like, I was touring. I was doing specials. I was doing the cartoon. We shot the movie last year. I got a podcast network producing specials. I kind of needed a little bit of a break. I just didn't know how to take one. But,
well, there you go.
Now that I took one, I could do but I will tell you that there's something. I'm also, when something makes me sad, I also block it out and just say I don't care, something I learned from my childhood. So I probably do really miss it on some level, but I'm sort of I got that German-Irish thing where it's like, oh, that's painful. Just bury it. So I think consciously I don't miss it, and subconsciously I'm probably crying someplace.
I thought that's a New England thing, because I'm like that too. I always, like, in times of whatever, I always just I get laser focused on other things because I don't want to think about the bad stuff.
Yeah, and I tone everything. Everybody's overreacting. I tone it down. Fucking relax. You'll be fine. I go that way.
It's German Irish, so Tom Hagen's your guy.
Who's that?
Tom from The Godfather. Let me tell you something, my Krautmik friend.
Remember
from Godfather 1? Tom
you wouldn't
Hagen.
keep there. I was trying to think sports. I was like, was he right after?
I was trying to think of. I was thinking of the German Irish pantheon. Tom Hagen's got to be up there.
I'll have to watch The Godfather again. It's been a while.
Oh my God! I thought that would have been one of your movies. You rattled off Goodfellas before. You rattled off Billy Bats in like 2 seconds.
There's a split.
Yeah.
There's Goodfellas people and there's Godfather people. Like, I'm ashamed.
Can I be both?
Huh?
Can I be both? Can I
know,
be
but
both sides?
There's one. It's like, who you like better, De Niro or Pacino? Everybody leans.
Fair.
They're both unfucking believable. Everybody, there's something.
So you're a De Niro guy, is what you're telling me.
No, I am a comedy guy, and I will tell you that Goodfellas is one of the greatest dark comedies that has ever been written. The amount of fucking hilarious lines in that.
I agree.
As far as mob movies go, I would maybe say Godfather Part 2 is the sickest movie I've ever seen. Okay? But as far as like the personality, the character, all of that stuff, just there's so many, like, and every time I watch it, I see something else that some actor did that was hilarious. Like the last time I watched it, I became obsessed with the club that they end up burning down.
Yeah.
His performance in that is so fucking unbelievable.
So you're saying Dances with Wolves shouldn't have won the Oscar over Goodfellas?
No, that's the game. Because everybody has to wait. There's so many people. Everybody thinks they're getting fucked.
Yeah.
But the thing is they're just self-centered. And if you look at Scorsese and you realize that all those movies he made, that they didn't finally open up a space for him until the Departed. Everybody wins it, like it seems like 4 movies after they should have won it, unless I think you do like a hot topic sort of, unless you're the guy that's in that hot topic thing, that's, the disease, the group of people, the story. There's so much shit that's involved in winning. The whole thing is kind of silly when you think about it. I mean, I honestly, I think trophies should be for kids. Little League trophy. And I think if you win like a championship, you know what I mean? I like it, if you're a championship boxer, you get a championship belt. That makes sense to me. All right. But like,
you should give this speech at the Emmys if you win for the Netflix show. You just do this exact speech.
I know. I got to watch it. I don't want to paint myself into a corner, because you got to play the game, because if your show wins an Emmy, then all your writers have written for an Emmy award-winning show, and then they can make some more money. So you got to be the team player there.
Well, the longer this pandemic goes on, the only thing we're going to have is animated shows. This will be it. So your odds are increasing.
Dude, money always wins. What they'll do is they'll fucking have a doctor there. They'll have a fast test. You'll get tested. And if you don't have a fucking, anything, boom, you're on the show. You're shooting that day.
Take your temperature and that's it. So this Staten Island movie, you go topless. You have a topless scene.
Did I?
Yeah. Well, they
all right.
Yeah.
Out of everything that you watched, what you're going to bring up?
I was just, I wanted to get into your decision to go on topless. Like, how much
thought it said to do in the script. They had to show this stuff.
Talk to Judd.
You know what? That is such like a post-social media fucking question. It's never about the thing. It's the shit. Like right now, nobody's listening to this podcast. They're trying to figure out what the fuck these things are. I didn't even know what the fuck you were talking about. I was like, did I do the full Monty?
I don't know. I was looking for an entrance into Staten Island. I didn't want to go conventional. I wanted to go curveball into it. Is this the biggest role you've had, like in a big movie, like the most lines, most screen time, all that stuff? Because you've been in big movies, but is this the biggest part you've had?
It's probably the most lines in something that's going to get this much attention.
Yeah.
I did a movie called Black or White, where I had a really good role. Mike Binder, Kevin Costner, Anthony Mackie, and then I had one. Yeah, I guess it would be. Maybe it is. But as far as like something that, I mean, I did one, The Front Runner, a great movie that got buried by Aquaman.
I like that was Reitman's movie. I like that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie.
You were the
movie, and the amount of work that he put into those shots.
Yeah.
And like how much of a passion project that was. And then Aquaman comes along, which I have to admit, I watched that movie and I fucking liked it, man. It's a cool movie.
Aquaman?
Yeah, they made Aquaman. Aquaman was cool, man. He's fucking drinking. He looked like he rode a Harley and shit. I liked it. I would have liked it if it came out a few weeks after ours did, but that's how the game's played.
Yeah, it's interesting with those movies like The Front Runner, because I had Jason on when it came out. Like those were the kind of movies we grew up with, right, in the 70s and 80s. These signature movies with great cast by a good director, looking back at something that happened, and now it's almost like people don't want to go to the movie theater as much to see a movie like that, but they end up seeing it. I feel like most people end up seeing The Front Runner, just not the way in the old days you went to the theater to see it. You know, like if Silkwood with Meryl Streep came out now, I don't think it's a signature movie. I just think people find it eventually on
they're in a transitional period, and I think this pandemic with stuff like our movie is going straight to streaming.
Yeah.
I think that's going to become like, I also what I'm hoping in this, another thing I'm hoping with this pandemic thing is I'm hoping that the Zoom meeting becomes a thing. All of these poor bastards having to go to the fucking airport all the time. It's like, why don't you just get on a fucking, what is it about having to sit across? That's that old school business thing. I want you to sit across from me, look me in the eye, and I can tell you. I bet you after a while you'll be able to tell. You'll be able to judge by these things, whether you trust me enough to fucking, buy into my company or something. But like, I'm just hoping like pitching shows, we can just do that over Zoom, as opposed to one group of people having to cross under, over, or go on to the 405 at around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You just don't need another 6 fucking cars out there.
Well, I think we talked about this on this pod in the past. Like it's been amazing what we've learned in the last 3 months about what we need to do and not do. And even stuff like podcasts, it was always so hard to do pods when somebody was in the room with you if there was more than 2 people. And now it's like, it's actually kind of easy. You just all get on a Zoom, record on your end, and you can do it. We didn't know that 3 months ago,
I think that there's going to be a number of people that continue to do it. As far as like stuff that you need, Chelsea Peretti, hilarious comedian, actor, everything. She's awesome. She had this tweet where these people were protesting outside of City Hall because they wouldn't open gyms. And part of the protest is they started doing push-ups and squats outside of the City Hall. And she tweeted, thus proving that you could do push-ups and squats anywhere.
Right.
And I don't know. What I loved about that was like those people were like almost like how someone who they're in prison too long, they're like institutionalized to the point where you're literally working out and you don't consider it working out because you're not in a gym listening to Loverboy. Like that's working out. You know what I mean? But like,
right.
But if I'm just working out and I'm not in a gym, that doesn't count.
Well, I don't know. I always tried to work from home as much as I could, even as my life got more complicated, because I always felt like I was more productive. I could control things more. I just got more shit done. And It's been interesting to watch other people realize that over the past 3 months. Like, I never liked to travel for anything I did, because it was like, if I go back to New York, that's an entire day flying back. You know, it's 9 hours from going to the airport to the time you land, all that stuff. So I lose a whole day. The Wi-Fi might not work on the airplane. Then you go and you got to cram everything. And then you got to fly back. And I basically lost 2 days. And now I think people are realizing, yeah, let's just hop on Zoom. We'll bang it out. You know, we just joined Spotify 3 months ago.
I think what's going to happen.
We met all these people on Zoom, and that's it.
You need the herd to, like, whichever way the herd runs. I'm just hoping it doesn't go right back to normal. And like, I think with everything that's going on environmentally, it's better if there's less people driving and less people flying. But just the weird thing, how money works is like, they'll say like it's this fucking disaster that maybe airlines have to have less flights. Like, that's more of a disaster than having fresh air or whatever. But or maybe I'm just being selfish because I have to travel for a living. And my overwhelming thought when I go to an airport is, where are these people going? Okay. And I'm not talking about people in business suits and shit. I understand like that, but it'll be in the middle of a fucking school year. And you see like a family of like 5 and like, aren't they supposed to be in school? Where the fuck are you going? This isn't spring break. They don't have a vacation. It's not the holidays. Why the fuck are you here?
Right.
Another fucking 7 people standing in line. Like I said, it's mostly selfish, but like the level of airline travel that the average person does compared to when like I was a kid, like nobody, like that was like a big thing if there was a guy in your neighborhood and he wore a suit and got a company car, and occasionally 2 or 3 times a year he took a business trip. Like, where is that guy going? What is he doing? He was like borderline fucking James Bond. And now I feel like there's soccer moms with no jobs who have higher status on Delta Airlines than I do. And I'm doing fucking stand-up gigs every weekend. It's just like, where the fuck are you going?
Well, it's like in Mad Men when Don Draper would go to LA. It was like a big deal. I'm going to go to LA, get some business done. So you're going to LA?
I think it's the whole thing where you watch the Travel Channel, you watch like the Food Network, and they're showing you all of this shit that you didn't know was out there. And they're really just all of these commercials to just go to all of these places. And also airline travel became cheaper and shit like that. But like,
well, I'll tell you, it's completely changed Los Angeles. The air is unbelievable. It took like within 4 weeks, you could actually like feel a difference and see a difference.
Oh, you could
with the less cars.
See it immediately. Like I think like the cleanest days of the last 20 years were like those few days after 9/11 when they grounded all the flights. I mean, they're just up there spraying low lead fuel, and we're all driving and we're kicking up dust and doing all of that stuff. It would be a really great thing if some positive stuff like that came out. It's a weird thing, though, because I'm also rooting for people with small businesses and shit like that. So it's a tough thing.
Well, I mean,
we're getting deep here. We're going above my pay grade here. This is the stuff that I try to avoid thinking about because it gets too frustrating. Everybody starts screaming and typing to me in capital letters.
Yeah, but we could learn lessons from it. Like, we could have weeks that are designated to be like no travel. Let's try to get the earth back for a week and things like that. There might be things to learn. What are you the most proud of about this movie?
I mean, I just had fun. I think I finally had like legit had fun. My last few things that I've done in acting, I figured out how to have fun because there was so much anxiety about, am I doing this right? Is it going to come together right? And, oh my God, I have to do that. I have to do this. Like, there's so much stuff like people always like give credit to comedians. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you had the nerve to go do that. But it's like, okay, but I also totally control how far I'm going to go. If I just want to go up there and just stand there and just tell jokes, I can do this. But like, you're acting, all of a sudden it's like, all right, you your character is going to have a dance contest in this scene. You're like, I don't like to dance. And all of a sudden, you just have to fucking do it. You got to take your shirt off, or your character has you have to kiss somebody or something. It just gets you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's what took me such a long time of this new thing of letting go of that and being like, okay, this isn't me. This is this guy, and this is what this guy does. And then all of a sudden, I think I finally went through this porthole of like, oh, this is the fun of acting. It's the exact opposite of comedy, where it's like, where stand-up, right act, direct, whatever they say. This thing here is I have to let go of all of that and just be like, what do you want me to do? And even if this is something that I wouldn't do, I have to figure out how this guy would do this. And having to get out of you and into this guy was like a real sort of new thing. And then also, I always heard like great actors just keep reading the script. So I kept doing that and really tried to think about, because I used to just think about the scene. Okay, come in and do the scene, and you say this and I say that, and then she says this. And this thing I was kind of looking at like, all right, so here's all of my scenes, and here's all of the story. Where does my energy need to be so it goes like this? Or I take you on the ride. Because like, there's stuff I've done in the past where I've watched it, and it's literally just can be off this much, and it's glaring to me, but I'll just watch it and be like when I shot that scene, I was not thinking that this shit happened before. So I should have adjusted. I should have been slightly over to the right or slightly over to the left here, and I was here instead, and it fucking drives me nuts. But my problem is I have problems reading, and I have like massive ADD and shit. So I just had to I just kept reading like 20 pages every day. I try to read like, if I had time, I just read it. And then I would think, okay, what's the obvious thing that I would do? What would be the weirdest thing? Now, what's something in between, just to try to do like something different. Hopefully people probably watch it and think, he's doing the same old fucking bullshit. But I like to think it's a little different.
How much ad-libbing was there in the Apatow movie?
A bunch.
You must have loved that.
It's amazing. Well, that can be a scary thing if you stand there in front of a crew and you got nothing. That's something that, unless you're just born with this confidence, you have to get like seasoned. So at least that's how it worked for me. But like with Judd, there's like the scene that's written. You do that a few times. Then you start messing around with it. And then he comes and he goes, hey, here's an area. I liked where that was going. Play with that. And the amazing thing about him is that he keeps it all up here and is editing it. And I'm just sitting here worried about like just my scenes. He's got the whole fucking movie and then the overall vibe that he has to keep between his ears as you're doing all of that. And everybody pretty much had free reign to say and do whatever they wanted at any time, minus killing off characters and changing the storyline. And he just sort of would guide it. It's real. There's a real genius to what that guy does. That I can't imagine when you go into the edit bay. I remember when reality TV first came out, and it really was reality, and they would just film you for 14 hours, and then have 14 hours of footage to try and find where the storyline is, and that's why it moved to assisted reality.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to have enough hours in a fucking year to put this shit together and come out on time. We got to start to see where the fires are and nudge people towards it so we have something. And to see somebody doing that with a movie, it's funny. I actually watched the thing recently on Gary Marshall when they were showing behind the scenes of Pretty Woman, which I still haven't seen for whatever fucking reason. He worked like that. And I was talking to Judd. I was going, were you a fan of that guy? Because that's the only guy that I've kind of seen that worked that kind of way and could kind of, anybody from like the craft service guy, that's what Gary Marshall was saying, could come up and they would slip him a piece of paper with the joke on it. And the thing was, is if the piece of paper went into the pocket, it was in the script. If he dropped it on the ground, it was a no-go. And I love that shit because I heard back in the day, some guy told me backstage one time, Bob Dylan had a thing. That when he was backstage, he had a hoodie. If the hoodie was up, don't talk to him. If the hoodie's down, you can talk to him. And it's just such the effort that it would take when you're him, the amount of people that want to talk to you, that you got to be like, I'm sorry, just getting my head together. I'm sorry, could you not right now? All he had to do was just, if I have the fucking hoodie up, I'm getting myself mentally where I need to be to give these people their money's worth so they keep coming back and seeing me so I can keep living my dream. To just be able to do that's brilliant. Paper in the pocket, it's in the script. I drop it. I don't have to explain it to you and worry about your feelings. It was no good. It's on
was
the
that
floor.
Gary Marshall special? I didn't watch it. Was it good? Should I watch that? Because I saw it was on and I just didn't see it. But now I want to see it.
I watched it because my wife was watching it, and I think it's fun to see watching Julia Roberts right before she's going to blow up. And just be watching her like she has no fucking idea that she's going to become like, this movie's going to come out and her whole life is going to, that's fun. And then the similarities of the way he was working and then having done that movie with Judd and watching each actor talking about like, yeah, I guess we just sort of show up and sort of say what's written and then we kind of go in the other direction. I don't know. I really enjoyed working with Judd. We haven't even talked about Pete Davidson.
That was my next and last question. What was your takeaway after spending a couple months with him?
Well, I already loved the guy anyways before I worked with him, but I feel like, he's someone that I've known for a long time, but just because of where his career was and where I was living, where he was living, like the full friendship didn't happen. So that was the best thing is a full friendship developed out of it. And he's such a great guy. And he was, it was his movie. He did the Jordan thing. He was like first there, last to leave, and he made sure like with coverage, he tried to, Judd, shoot him out. I'll stay. He was a real stand-up guy, man. He's
wow.
Yeah, awesome. And he's incredible in this movie.
Yeah, it's weird. He's one of those, and some celebrities are just like this, where you're always rooting for them from the first time you see them. And I don't know if there's an SNL piece to that too, because they've had a few people like that on the show, where just from the first thing you're like, I hope that guy makes it, or I hope that lady makes it. And with him, he's always been one of those guys, and I can't really explain it, but I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, oh man, I hope especially when he was having some issues. I think a lot of people are like, oh man. I hope. Oh yeah,
that's that shit always gets blown out of proportion once you're in.
Once you're.
Everybody else would just have a bad couple of days, but then all of a sudden, you're on a show or something, then it becomes, is so and so blah blah blah, and then it never goes anywhere, and it's just over in 3 fucking days, and that's that Chicken Little shit that they do. And this is the thing, if you're on a show and you actually got to take it as a compliment. They're like, oh my God, I've reached the level that someone's going to make up some bullshit and try to get it going for 3 days. That's pretty cool.
It's funny watching those entertainment shows now with because they're basically taping it from their houses, but doing the same gimmick you just did. But they're like at their kitchens behind them. Coming up, so-and-so. And you can see like,
what are they talking about now?
Yeah, nobody's getting in trouble.
Bridges not taking out his trash?
Yeah.
I don't know why I went with Todd Bridges. I'm old. I was going to say Gary Coleman, but he's dead.
Ben Affleck not wearing a mask. That's coming up.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know what else he would do. All right. Well, congrats on everything. June 12th, big day for you.
Yes, sir.
A lot of stuff going out. My son says thank you for all the comedy. It was good to see you as always, and good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you very much. And hey, like I said, Don Gavin, if you ever get to hang with that guy, man, he was there.
All right.
He was there. All right. I'll see you.
All right. Thanks, man.